Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again are my co-hosts, Richie O'Leary, Alec Crowdhamel. We have the first training camp of the 2025, first training camp practice of the 2025 season under wraps. And you guys were there. You guys got to talk to Coach Schiano. You guys got to talk to Athan Kaliakmanis. We'll get into what they said and some roster updates. And then it looks like we finally have some clarity on the athletic director search. It is all but official that Rutgers will be hiring former associate AD at LSU, Keli Zinn. She obviously has previously worked with William Tate. We'll get into a little bit more on her. The BOG special meeting was scheduled today for Wednesday. So Wednesday it will be official that Rutgers will have its AD in place. Figures, we talked about it yesterday and we kind of were talking about, is it going to be ready for the season? And we were 50-50 on it. And sure enough, that happens a few hours later. But let's get into training camp day one. Greg spoke to the media after practice today. You guys got to speak to Athan Kaliakmanis. Let's first talk about what was said and what you guys thought about that. First off, let's start with Greg Schiano. Rich, was there anything Greg said that kind of stood out to you, or was it typical? A whole lot of nothing, because it was only a 7-minute presser, so it's not like a whole lot could be said, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, a lot of words, not a lot of substance, I guess is the best way to put it. He spoke pretty highly about the top two linebackers. I thought that was kind of interesting because he's not one for really revealing his hand with a depth chart, but if you look at the roster based on linebackers, like you kind of could tell it was going to be Moses Walker anyway as the other guy. But he did say that Moses Walker has made some significant strides. I know after talking to some people in the know, they just said that he's really coming to his own this offseason. He's starting to learn more in terms of the playbook, in terms of the game, in terms of the speed, what to do, what angle to take, all that other stuff that he kind of struggled with last year. So it sounds like they're pretty confident in him as linebacker 2 afterwards. He said word for word, it gets a little foggy. That's always a concern. I still think Sam Robinson's that guy. He mentioned Austin Dean coming back. He also talked about the defensive line. I asked him about that. He did mention how they have a lot of good players, which is a great sign. But I feel like he says this every year about the defensive line, that they're 10 deep. They're 10 deep. And it's like, you're not going to play 10 players. So he did mention how he has to kind of just figure out who's going to play, who's going to get what reps. I've heard rave reviews about Zaire Angoy this offseason. He's down to 305. This is a kid that was, 360 when he showed up, I think. 365, something like that, a couple years ago. So we'll see if he can hold off Doug Blue Eli for that nose tackle spot. They also have another battle going on the other side with kind of a 3-man battle, I guess, because Oliver Bolette is now part of the team. Coming over from Kent State, added some weight between Daryl Dengoe, who's probably has the highest ceiling of this group, and then Keshawn Griffin, who just a veteran presence too. That actually played quite a lot towards the end of the last season. So just very bland, very boring press conference, but it's just nice to have footballs back. It's nice to go out there and see people actually playing football, even though they're not in full pads. They're in the spiders. They'll be in full pads on Wednesday for the first time, so we'll get to see that for a couple minutes, basically. But new practice jerseys, too, so you'll see that in the photos. Bright red, like bright red, completely different from last year, but Nike branding everywhere, too, which is nice. So it's pretty much it from my perspective.
How about you, Alec? What were some of the things that Greg said that kind of perked your ears up?
Definitely the linebackers, because like Richie said, it's not we weren't 100% sure. It seemed like Moses Walker was heading in the way to start next to Daryl Jabome, but we didn't know for sure. It was interesting that he just kind of came out and said it, that he feels confident in the top two. Just a lot of the usual things that we hear. Just working to become better. He said that training camp, I think he said this before plenty of times, that this training camp, the summer camp fall camp is what it's called, the time where players improve the most because it's 20 straight days of football and nothing else. Don't have to worry about classes or school or anything like that. So we'll see if anyone kind of breaks through from that. And there was something else that he said that I thought was interesting. But
I think he mentioned you don't have to worry about girlfriends either. I think he did.
Yeah,
say that.
I was thinking
And
like they still exist.
I don't know if that's how that works. Maybe I'm just a different relationship kind of guy, but
they still exist in the summer.
You still
but
kind of have to deal with them. Like,
yeah,
you can't just ignore them for a whole month and just think they're still going to be there. It's not like a goldfish. Like,
there's not as many people on campus, I think, is what he meant. There's not as many. That's probably what he meant.
They're also not in classes. They don't got to worry about keeping up with homework and assignments and things like that. So generally, he's right. There's far fewer distractions. There's not a direct game plan you're doing. You get to experiment a little bit more, but certainly not zero.
He was also asked about Spencer Brown, the new forget exactly what his title is, but he took over for Jay Butler this year. And he said what I thought was interesting. He said, he kind of just like lets people kind of do their jobs. Obviously, he wants to put them in a direction towards what's best for the program and all that. But he kind of like lets them do whatever they're doing, and hasn't been too long. Obviously, he's only been here for a couple months now in that role, but Schiano said he's doing a great job. Also was asked about Whitey Collier. He is not he's not with the team yet. He still has some red tape to go through just to fully get himself in and things like that. But they expect him to be there soon. So he said he was definitely a player that they're looking forward to have on campus and get developed.
And he talked about having 3 players reclassify and join the team early with the 2 DBs and Latrell Noel and Cannon Marshall. Just talking about, seeing how they do things, getting them in, eating the same way the team does, lifting the same way the team does. He said it's a huge advantage to get these guys on campus early. And honestly, if they could probably do it for every single guy that they want to sign, they probably would if it was possible. Rich, you asked an interesting question, just kind of talking about the defensive line, how they have a lot of guys coming in who are veterans, but not necessarily, entrenched starters because they're new at Rutgers. You want to talk a little bit about what Greg's response was to the D-line question?
He didn't say anything too crazy, just a lot of depth there. I do think if I had to put a starter on it, I feel like Bradley Weaver and Eric O'Neill are like guaranteed starters, basically. But that interior is really up for grabs. I'm kind of intrigued to see if a guy like Doug Blue Eli can step up and be that run-stuffing nose tackle that they've kind of wanted for a couple years now, or Zaire Ngoy with less weight could be a little bit of a threat there. Like, I know you want him, like, you want a big body in the middle, and like, cool, throw a 365-pound guy in the middle. You're probably not going to get past him for the most part, but get him a little bit more athletic, and now it's like, oh shit, like he actually looks really good. So we'll see what happens there. Who's the other side? Daryl Ndegoe, I love his game. I think he's a little bit shorter than the 6'2" that he's listed at. And is that an issue? Maybe. But Julius Turner was pretty productive at 5'10" in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And with the cock nose. And we would love to bring that back. I'm sure Matt Millen would be very happy.
Don't even get him started.
So I think he has a lot of potential. I think the height thing's a little over exaggerated by some people. Even they said the same thing with Doug Blue Eli. Some people on our boards he's only 6 foot. He's 6'1", and it's like, it helps leverage though too. If you're strong, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And it's not like they're skinny. Like, these are still big body people. Sean Griffin, who was the other one? Oliver Belletti. Oliver Belletti. I want to say Belletti because I think there's 2 E's at the end, but I just know it's not. I kind of intrigued to see what he could do, even though he played on probably the worst team in the country last year in Kent State. They're pretty bad, right? I don't know if they were the worst, but they were up there or down there.
I'm pretty sure they went 0-12.
Yeah, so probably the worst. So I'm intrigued to see what he can do too, because he was kind of productive for such a crappy team. So there's bodies, there's depth. I think the defensive line this year has a chance to be very special. It's going to really depend on Eric O'Neill and Bradley Weaver and see what they can do, but you can't really double team both of them. So I think one of them is going to be able to put up some significant sack numbers, whether it be, I don't think they'll hit double digits, but I think one of them could probably hit 8, maybe 9.
I could see it. I mean, we haven't really had a whole lot of production in terms of sack numbers at Rutgers in a long time. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had a guy break 5 sacks since 2016, something crazy like that.
It's embarrassing.
So I think we got a grade on a curve here, but it wouldn't surprise me if both those guys surpass that number in 2025. Greg also talked about the offense. He was really, effusive with his praise towards Kirk Soraka, talking about how he's the best in the business and they're super lucky to have him, and they're really happy to keep the staff together this offseason as well in the offense, bringing back every single one of their position coaches. And he hyped up the addition of John McNulty coming in to be the assistant wide receivers coach, which is huge because anytime you get a former NFL position coach to come in and former coordinator, multiple times over coordinator to come in and be your assistant position coach, big addition. Anything else Greg said that you guys wanted to hit on before we talk about what Athan had to say?
I don't think so. I mean, Alec, you got anything?
No, I think that was all. I didn't make it. I had some scheduling things before that, so I ended up missing Schiano's part, but I was there for Athan.
Okay, so let's talk about what Athan said. Athan spoke to the media after Greg, and it's not really surprising that he's very polished media-wise, but I think there's like a way you can be a little too polished and not ever say anything of substance. I would say Athan's not really like that. I think he knows really where he can kind of wander out to and hit the border of not saying anything controversial, but also giving substantive answers. So let's talk about what Athan had to say. Obviously, he's coming in to his second season as a starter. Third season with Kirk Soraka. He talked about his relationship. Alec, what was some of the things that Athan said that kind of intrigued you?
I thought it was interesting because, like you mentioned on Big Ten Media Days, he mentioned he's always kind of picking Straka's brain, always asking him questions, whether it's on the field or in the film room, things like that. So I asked him, where did that start? And he said, ever since kind of for all the time he's played football, he's always trying to learn from his coaches and things like that. So I thought that was a really good answer. He's just kind of always looking to learn more. Which I thought was pretty interesting since, it wasn't like a particular point where he realized, I should probably start asking this guy a bunch of questions. He just started at it right away. And he was just kind of similar that like we've heard from him a lot, whether it was in the spring or at Big Ten Media Days or now in for fall camp, just very positive on the growth and development of really the offense as a whole, and then also his comfort, the way he's grown as a player and as a person the last year, going in from year one as the starter to year two.
Rich, what about you? What were some of the things that Athan had to say that kind of perked your ears up?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I wasn't in the Athan interview. It was Craig and Alec, so
Gotcha.
He said some good stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, you did your heavy lifting with Schiano. Craig and I handled Athan's
my off the record talks too.
Yeah, I mean, Athan only spoke for 4 to 5 minutes. I think there was maybe 5 or 6 questions asked. A lot of stuff that was repeated from the Big Ten Media Day that he was asked and discussed. So wasn't a whole lot there. Obviously, they have a whole lot of confidence in the offense. Athan was just, bubbling out with praise for the wide receiver group. So I do expect things to kind of take off this year. And one of the questions I think you might have asked him about this, Rich, about the expectations for the offense this year. And Greg basically said, I want to see the continued trajectory of where we left things off last year. He expects the offense to continue to make improvements. So I think we might see the most explosive offense Rutgers has had maybe since the Mike Teal, Gary Nova years, probably since Gary Nova in 2014, 2015, 2014.
Yeah.
So I think that was his last
I
year.
think that's what it was. Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's not only like you look at those last 4 games, 30 plus points per game in 4 games in a row. And it's like, holy shit, this is Rutgers. You sure?
Yep.
This is not normal. And then you add a top receiver in DT Sheffield, who everyone keeps raving about as one of the better receivers in the country. Then you have another year in Ian Strong, who's getting raved about by NFL scouts. Then you have KJ Duff, who is starting to flash a little bit as a true freshman. And it's like, holy shit. Like, are we sure this is Rutgers? Because it seems like they might pass the ball a lot.
I think they will. And you get a guy in CJ Campbell who's known to be a threat out of the backfield in the passing game as well. I think you can really kind of be a lot more versatile this year. I think they knew last year they got killed on the offensive line with injuries. It took them a while to kind of figure out how to put the pieces back together when they lost Brian Felter. And that's not going to be an issue this year because they went out and got so many guys who are veterans who have played a ton of games. And while we might not get, all pro type performances out of some of the guys on the 2 deep, I don't think we'll have turnstiles either. So that'll be huge because also ideally you rotate guys in throughout a game too, so you're not just wearing your starters out, which we had to do last year. Like, I think if you look at kind of the snap counts, Holland Pierce has been just an Iron Man the last few years for us. I don't know percentage wise how many snaps he played, but it's damn near close to 100%, I'm sure. Anything else that was said today before we get into the Keli Zinn news that you guys thought was interesting or wanted to touch on?
I shouldn't say said, but the roster's out. There's some.
I was just about to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some new numbers. We listed that all on the site. Check that out. No position changes, which is kind of surprising for a Greg Schiano team.
Especially with all the freshmen coming in. Usually there's at least, a couple that kind of rotate between offense and defense.
Yeah, I guess you could technically say some position changes if you count, like, I'm looking now, like Miran Gurman, like, was a defensive end in high school, was like 245. He's now at 283. It's like, okay, that's no longer a defensive end. Like, Josh Blackston was listed at like 6'5", 6'6" at Under Armour All-American game. Comes to Rutgers, he's 6'3". It's like, okay, like at some point we have to stop like lying to people and like about your heights and weights. But so he'll obviously be on the interior at 6'3". I'd be shocked if he played offensive tackle at 6'3", but that's just me. Two interesting additions that like they walked onto the team, and I got to give these guys credit because I just didn't think like either was going to happen. I've never heard of either until today. One was Matthew Sales. He's a linebacker. So I looked him up. I Googled him real quick. I was like, oh, let's see what his high school tape looks like, because I'm looking. He's listed as a senior already. So it's like, oh, got to be like a random transfer from a small school. Monmouth University track and field last year. And I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't see that one coming. All right, whatever. Going down the list. What was the other guy's name? I forgot. 60. What was he? 76, I think it was. I can't remember his name.
The offensive lineman?
Yeah, I'm looking
number
for him
66, I believe.
Sixth. I thought that was it too, and I don't see him on here actually. 66. Oh, Joseph Lakatos, sophomore, and I'm like, oh, South River. Like, hey, that's my mom grew up there. I'm like, my grandparents grew up there. So I'm looking. I'm like, oh, let me go check him out. And I'm looking. I'm like, he's on the Rutgers cheerleading roster last year. I'm like, how the did that happen? And I talked to some people, and he ended up showing to a walk-on tryouts. Like, they have it every year, and he showed up and he performed well. And they're like, you know what, dude, we got a spot for you. Now mind you, these kids are probably never going to play. Maybe some like special teams for Sales, because I mean, track star special teams add math do be mathin'. But the other kid's a little bit smaller. I think he's 6'1", 280-ish. Maybe he sees the field down the line. Who knows? I'd be a little shocked, but to go from the cheerleading team to football team is just a wild story. And Rutgers, I feel like, always has these wild stories with walk-ons between Timmy Ward's background and his story. I'm sure most of you guys already know about that. Who was the Holland Pierce, like another walk-on crazy story.
Even dating back to 1.0, a guy like Gary Brackett.
Sean O'Hara, I think, walked on, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. Insane. Like, just absolutely insane, these walk-on stories. But the latest stories are now the Monmouth track star and now the Rutgers cheerleading team captain.
Yeah,
not really captain, but
Sales is listed as a sprinter for Monmouth, so that could maybe work as a gunner on special teams. You never know.
There we go. Send him down the field.
All right, so let's get into the athletic director update. News broke last night. I think it was Pete Thamel who had it first, discussing Rutgers targeting Keli Zinn as the next athletic director. Shouldn't really surprise when we've kind of been dropping the breadcrumbs about how President Tate has taken a much bigger role now that they've reset and got rid of Turnkey. Keli Zinn was the top lieutenant at LSU. She's got a pretty, great experience. Like a lot. Sorry, I should rather let me correct that. She's got a lot of good experience in her background. She's been the associate AD at West Virginia. She was also the interim AD at West Virginia for a year when Oliver Luck left, and she was retained when they found their new athletic director. She was then poached by LSU, and she's kind of been a top. She's been responsible for a lot of the financials in all her stops. I think she's the COO and like associate AD at LSU right now. Rich, you've got some really good intel on Keli Zinn, so I'll hand this off to you and let you talk about what Rutgers is getting in Keli Zinn as athletic director.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people that have dealt with her in the past. Like obviously she's been at West Virginia, she's been at LSU. It sounds like she was pretty much running the athletic department at West Virginia because the guy who was in charge at the time, Shane Lyons, was just on so many different national committees. So he really had his hand in multiple cookie jars, whereas like he didn't really take care of the athletic department. And that's where Keli Zinn was kind of running the show. Now she was interim AD for a little bit too. After he left, or after Luck left, or someone left. I forget who it was.
It was in between when Luck left and when they hired Lyons.
Okay, that's what it was then. So she was a temporary interim AD, and now that she did make one major mistake, but a lot of people that I've talked to aren't blaming her specifically for this mistake, and it was extending Neil Brown at the time as the head coach, because a lot of people feel like that sent West Virginia backwards in terms of a program, in terms of their trajectory under Dana Holgerson and Rich Rod before that, and now they're taking the Schiano method of rehiring Rich Rod. But they just feel like that extension was just unwarranted at the time, didn't really make sense. It was probably time to make a new national search, find a new coach, and they extended the guy instead. It'd be like extending Chris Ash. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why the hell would you do that? Now that's a different level. I know
West Virginia wasn't that bad.
I'm reaching a little bit, yes, but Neil Brown wasn't good either.
It was. I feel like, at least to compare it, it was kind of more like Flood-esque in terms of the production on the field.
Instead of firing Flood, mind you, different reasons why he got fired, you would be extending him again.
Yeah,
because he basically got 5-6 win seasons. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we did it. Like, no, but so either way, it seems like she was pretty solid there. Then she went to LSU, and everyone there raves about her. Scott Woodward, the current AD there, has always had a woman as his like number 2, whether it was at Washington. I think he was at Mississippi State too. It was, and his number 2 ended up getting a job somewhere else when he was at those schools. So we went out and found another number 2, and it was Keli Zinn right away. He raved about her. I know people that cover LSU have raved about her as a fundraiser. They said basically that at the end of the day, all she cares about is the athletic department making money. Now, obviously she cares about winning too, because LSU's won multiple national championships under her watch. Baseball twice. I think softball won one. Her first year there, football won one. So like they've got a lot of success there. She knows what success looks like. Men's basketball or women's basketball. Sorry. Women's? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I was right. So they've just had a lot of success there at LSU. On top of that, the money thing is the big aspect here for Rutgers, because we know like you have to really try hard and flip every unturned stone to just get $1 into Rutgers piggy bank. It's hard. It's not easy. So she does care about making money. She cares about finding money, and it's all about like setting these dollar amounts and making sure you achieve those goals. Now, obviously, LSU is a lot easier of a selling point than Rutgers will be. That being said, Rutgers has a ton of alumni out there. Maybe she could flip some of those unturned stones and kind of go from there. I don't know how she'll be at Rutgers fundraising wise, but I know damn well she's going to try her ass off to basically make sure that they're getting money. And I know some of the things that she's wanted to do at LSU involve not renovating the Pistol Pete Maravich Center, but like completely rebuilding the Pistol Pete Maravich Center, which is their basketball arena. And I think she even was quoted as saying like they'll have a new arena by 2029. That's a very historic arena around the same timeline as when the RAC was built. And it's like, she's going to do that in LSU. I wouldn't be shocked. Now I'm looking way too far down the road, but it wouldn't shock me if she did that at Rutgers too, because we know Pat Hobbs was all in on rebuilding the RAC. Like he looked into renovating it and showed you guys the designs of renovating it. But then when it came down to push comes to shove, it's just not feasible. Like it just doesn't make sense money-wise. It makes more sense to rebuild. So way too far down the line. That's going to be one of her things on her timeline. Football, she was the football sports admin. And I know Brian Kelly was kind of upset that she was leaving, spoke very highly of her to, I think it was our LSU site or one of the LSU sites about her. She was very heavily involved with football. Even if she gave football $10, it'd be more useful than what football has previously gotten, because no one has helped any of these programs. So it's like, it's nice to have someone that's going to probably care about sports for a change. And on top of it all, she's worked very close with President Tate. These two have met with every recruit on campus. whether it be football recruits would go into their offices to talk to them. And it's just like, and Rutgers does this sometimes too. Like, I think Jonathan Holloway talked to a couple of recruits. Zach Martini was a basketball recruit talking to the football coach. So everyone tries to help each other. But at LSU, she was or not just her, but also President Tate were hosting volleyball recruits at one point. Like, they care more about athletics than any single administrator that Rutgers has ever had before, ever. Like, period. Stop. So I think Tate is just going to be a huge help athletics-wise. I think hiring someone that knows Tate's vision is going to help align that vision from top to bottom, from president to athletic department to football coaches, basketball coaches, etc. Rant over.
So we were talking off the pod. You had said you heard something really interesting about President Tate from a source who's covered LSU for decades, like 3 decades plus experience covering LSU, and that President Tate was the single most invested person in athletics. Or what was the direct quote? I don't want to
I don't have the actual. I didn't re-listen to it because I have it on recording, but I have to go type it up and all that stuff, and you'll see it on the boards. But it was like something like, I've been covering LSU for like 30 years, and he is the single most influential person for LSU athletics since I began covering them. And it's like, this guy gets it. Like, he likes academics. Like, every president has to, because hell, it's part of college. Student athletes still.
Sure.
Even if they're making more money than God himself. But they are still student athletes. It's still important in academics. Rutgers has a nice balance of it. He loves athletics. He cares about athletics. And to have someone like that in charge is going to piss off every single professor possible that hates athletics. But if you're a Rutgers athletics fan, this is like the cream of the crop as a hire. Like, this guy cares. And he's not going to go put someone in charge of the athletic department if he knows that they don't care about it. Like, she's going to get this turned around, in his opinion. And again, it's all about alignment. When you have alignment from top to bottom, it makes life so much easier. All right, football needs this. Go to the AD. The AD goes right to the president. President goes, hey, I know this guy that will throw X amount of dollars at the program tomorrow. Done. Simple as that. When you have a president that's like, we need to put this money towards like new computers in the library on College Ave or something. I get it because you still need academics, but like, having a pro athletics president is just going to make life so much easier. And athletics kind of drives the university too. Let's be honest. Like,
yeah,
and football itself is just the most profitable program by far in the athletic department. And I think the only like positive trending program when it comes to like raking in dollar signs. So again, I don't know how much she'll be involved with football. I think she'll try to get them as much money as possible. I think she'll be involved with if it ever gets built, the indoor practice facility. But I think that she's going to be a pretty solid hire. And I think, and this is maybe a little bit of my take more than anything, I think if she was a dude, I don't think people would be complaining as much. I think that's a big factor. I think Julie Herman kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths because she was here and I don't know if she did anything, to be honest. She did less than Ryan Passari.
Yeah. I mean, the key difference here for those who are concerned about the person who's going to be running the athletic department's gender is that there was a mandate by somebody who no longer is associated with the university that it had to be a woman when they hired Julie Herman. So they did that. Julie Herman had never worked closely with the football program at Louisville. She never worked closely with the basketball program at Louisville. She was basically responsible for everything else. This is completely different. Like, President Tate has worked directly with Keli Zinn. She has been the top lieutenant at multiple stops. She has handled the financials at multiple stops. Rich, you were saying that at West Virginia, I think the quote was that like the guy who she worked under, the most previous West Virginia AD, like he was in a lot of national groups. He was in a lot of like, he basically had his time split between West Virginia and a lot of different places. And she was, for lack of a better term, like running the day-to-day of the athletic department. So she kind of knows the beats of it. She's done it before at multiple stops. She's incredibly qualified for this position.
Yeah. I think this is just a great hire, to be honest. And she's got Big East experience too. Like she and not just Big East experience, Northeast experience. She worked at Maryland, then she goes to West Virginia in the Big East. Like, she understands what's what. And she was a COO at West Virginia too. Like, I think she'll be a better fundraiser than people are giving her credit for. And and I think her husband's a former West Virginia football player too. So like she understands the aspect of football and the importance of it. And being the sports administrator for football I don't think she's going to be sports administrator for Rutgers football, because I think that's still Matt Colagiovanni's title technically. But I think that she has a good backing. She seems like she's solid, and honestly, it's just more of a wait and see type thing. We don't really know. Anyone that says like, oh, she's going to be awful at her job or she's going to be great at her job, it's kind of just a guessing game right now. So I think her background and her resume speaks enough, and we'll just kind of wait it out, and hopefully she's pretty good at her job.
Yeah, and I think another pushback I have against like the Julie Herman 2.0 comparisons is it's just the job of the athletic director is night and day different. What was that search 12 years ago versus what it is now? And I think in this new world of college athletics, Keli Zinn has plenty of experience working as one of the people being on the cutting edge because, like Richie mentioned, she's been a huge fundraiser for LSU athletics. She's worked in a bunch of different aspects at many universities. And she also helped develop, I believe it's called NILSU, which is like their main like NIL department and stuff like that. So and I've seen a lot of different people, raving about the way she's able to form relationships with people, things like that. So I just think it's a great way to kind of, I feel like it's a good balance because originally, alongside Turnkey before Rutgers ultimately moved on, they wanted to be on, Rutgers wanted to be on a type of cutting edge where, go fully into the business background and things like that. I feel like this is a balance of, maintaining the traditional, AD administrative experience in college athletics and also bringing that kind of business type background because she's done that. She's had that business type background working in the traditional college athletic space at LSU and at West Virginia previously as well. So yeah, it's obviously too early to say, whether she'll be great or not, but I like that this got done very quickly after it seemed like things were heading for a full reset. With President Tate getting more involved, it was obvious, the timing that he saw someone that he thought would be a great fit. And yeah, like Richie said, having that alignment, I think that was the most important part of what Richie was talking about, just getting that alignment where president and athletic director have the same vision, have that experience. I think it also helped the adjustment because, even if she hasn't been a full-time athletic director, I think it helps that, transition to that job where you're already working with someone as the president who you've already worked with for multiple years now. And then also, like Richie said, kind of already has a bit of experience kind of doing some day-to-day stuff. So I think it'll help that transition as well because with this, with the hire and obviously how long it took, they need to get hit the ground running and really start to get things going with in terms of fundraising and things like that. So yeah, it was a very interesting search. I want to say it was 345 days since the job opened. Yeah, I think this is a pretty solid way for it to end. Obviously, too early to say. I'm just going to go back to the story and see if there's anything else that we missed. I don't think so. When she was the interim AD at West Virginia, she was the first woman to lead that athletic department. LSU also got its first top 10 finish in the Directors Cup in 2023, and they also finished 13th last year and 17th this year. So that's a consistent top athletic department. Also, I don't know if you guys mentioned this before, but she worked with the gymnastics team, had to work alongside one of the top NIL earners in the entire country of the last few years, Livy Dunn as well. So just kind of working alongside the business sense, a lot of different kinds of backgrounds. Like Richie said, great fundraiser. I think this is I think this is a good way for the search to end.
And if you think about it, like not only Livy Dunn, who you alluded to being one of the biggest NIL earners, but you could argue that they've had like one of the top NIL earners at their respective sports in like multiple areas. You have Livy Dunn, obviously. You have Paul Skeens for baseball, who was a phenom and getting all sorts of NIL opportunities. Mm-hmm. You have Angel Reese, who is one of the top NIL earners in the country for women's basketball. You have Jaden Daniels, one of the top NIL earners in football when in his Heisman season. So she's had a ton of experience with super high level athletes, making a ton of money, helping them get brand deals, helping them integrate their brands into other brands and getting them NIL opportunities. So she kind of knows the beats of it, and she was very progressive in terms of getting in front of that rather than kind of sitting around and not doing anything like Rutgers has done in the past under Pat Hobbs. So,
and one more thing I'll add. She was also, I believe, at some of the forefront of working with how LSU was going to divvy up its revenue sharing money as well. So she'll bring that experience to Rutgers. Obviously, we'll wait and see how that kind of divvies out. We don't know yet, but it just seems like she's really solid on the business end. Some of the specifics, she renegotiated LSU's multimedia rights partnership, and they saw a 21% value increase, and also saw significant revenue increases in ticket sales, merchandising, and the big one, donor support.
Found those numbers for what it's worth. 75% football, 15% men's basketball, 5% women's basketball, 5% every other sport. I don't know if that's going to be the numbers at Rutgers. I think it's more going to be like 80 for football. Just that's what it was previously. That was the plan. Does that plan stick? Who knows? We'll wait and see. And also don't know how much women's basketball we'll get at Rutgers, because LSU women's basketball, of course, like you mentioned, national championship, a little bit different scenario. I don't know. We'll wait and see how it works out. But plus, like, you have wrestling here too, which probably needs a solid chunk instead of just the remainder of that chunk.
Yep. But we will have more, obviously, after she is formally announced on Wednesday. But we wanted to give you guys the 4-on-1 on who she is as a person, her experience, and our thoughts on the hire. Mm-hmm. We'll also have more pods this week as training camp continues on. Next practice is, I believe, on Wednesday, right?
Wednesday and Friday this week.
Wednesday and Friday. Rich, looks like you had something else you wanted to say.
No, that's it. That's all I got.
We will know which players will be available kind of day of. Like we said, the way it works is you put in requests, and then day of they tell you, okay, you asked for X, Y, and Z. We got Z today. Okay, perfect.
Here's A, B, and C.
yeah, exactly. But that's all I think we've got for you guys today.
I got one more thing.
Alec?
Not Rutgers related, not really Rutgers related, but New Jersey related. Certain 4-star in the 26 class, Aiden Durkak, is headed to Spire Academy out in Ohio. So that makes 2 Durkaks who will be playing basketball in Ohio this upcoming season. Transferring out from Colonia. Kevin Boyle, obviously New Jersey legend from St. Patrick's, then later at Montford, is now the head coach at Spire. So that's a big time get for him. And obviously Durkak has gotten a ton of attention playing in the EYBL for team final. So he's gotten a ton of big time offers, obviously like Indiana, USC, Maryland, Creighton, kind of around the Big East, Big 12 as well. So congrats to him for making the jump to Spire. Also, Jordan did play there for his post-grad year. Obviously, Kevin Boyle was not there, but also from Spire, Caleb McConnell as well, one of the more notable Spire alumni.
Yeah, obviously Kevin Boyle takes the program to the next level, but LaMelo Ball also played there for a year before, wherever else he ended up, whether it be Lithuania or Australia, wherever. You kind of went everywhere in his high school career, but.
I will add that Rutgers is not currently involved in they're not among the leaders in his recruitment as well, I'll say. So, again, not really Rutgers news, but some pretty big New Jersey basketball news.
Yep. All right, well, that is all we have for you guys today. Stay tuned to the boards. We'll have more information, I'm sure, on the AD hire as it comes in. But for Richie and Alec, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.
Sign up for $1 today.